In a crowded compound in the heart of a busy Nigerian town lived Mr. Okoro, a 58-year-old landlord with a large belly, a bald head surrounded by patches of gray hair, and one very serious problem. He loved other people's food. Mr. Okoro could afford to buy whatever he wanted, but somehow, food belonging to his tenants always tasted better to him. If Mama Ngozi fried fish, Mr. Okoro would suddenly develop a reason to pass by her kitchen. If Emeka cooks stew, Mr. Okoro would mysteriously appear around lunchtime. And if Vanessa made chicken, Mr. Okoro would spend the entire afternoon walking around the compound pretending he was checking the water pipes. The tenants knew what he was doing. But nobody had caught him. Until Emeka's food started disappearing. One Saturday afternoon, Emeka prepared a huge pot of chicken stew. He bought fresh tomatoes, peppers, onions and several pieces of chicken. He cooked everything slowly until the entire compound smelled like a wedding reception. Emeka stood over the pot proudly. He even told himself that he would not share it with anybody. He covered the pot, locked his kitchen and went to take a shower. When he returned 20 minutes later, he opened the pot. His smile disappeared. 3 pieces of chicken were gone. Emeka stared into the pot as if the chicken might suddenly return. He counted what remained. Then he shouted so loudly that every tenant came outside. Someone had stolen his chicken. Again. That evening, Vanessa called the tenants together. Mama Ngozi arrived first, already angry. She announced that her fried fish had disappeared 2 days earlier. Ton said his pot of rice had mysteriously reduced overnight. Mama Ejiro said somebody had taken 2 pieces of meat from her soup. Emeka stood up and declared that this was no longer ordinary stealing. This person is not stealing food, he said. This person is conducting research. Everyone laughed. Then Vanessa said she had an idea. They would catch the thief. But they wouldn't confront him. They would set a trap. The next afternoon, Vanessa cooked a fresh pot of stew. It looked delicious. It smelled delicious. But there was one little difference. The tenants had secretly added a strong but harmless dose of laxative to the portion they intended the thief to steal. They carefully placed the pot where it would be easy to reach. Then everybody disappeared into their rooms. They waited. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. 20 minutes. Nothing happened. Mama Ngozi became impatient. She whispered through her window that perhaps the thief had finally developed good behavior. Then they heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Everybody became silent. Mr. Okoro appeared. He looked around the compound. He checked the windows. He checked the doors. Then he walked straight toward the pot. He lifted the cover. The aroma hit him. Mr. Okoro smiled. He whispered to himself that these tenants had finally learned how to cook properly. He carried the pot into his room. The tenants watched from their windows. Nobody laughed. Not yet. Inside his room, Mr. Okoro locked the door. He sat comfortably on his bed and opened the pot. He served himself a generous portion. Then he took his first bite. He smiled. He took another. Then another. The landlord was enjoying himself so much that he began licking the spoon. Outside, Vanessa covered her mouth to stop herself from laughing. Mama Ngozi was already shaking with excitement. Then Mr. Okoro suddenly stopped eating. He felt something strange in his stomach. He ignored it. He took another bite. A few seconds later, his stomach made a loud noise. Mr. Okoro looked down. He whispered that perhaps he had eaten too quickly. Then the stomach rumbling became louder. And louder. And louder. Mr. Okoro's eyes widened. Mr. Okoro suddenly jumped off his bed. His belly cramped. He grabbed his stomach. He tried to walk. Then another cramp hit him. He froze. His eyes widened. He looked toward the bathroom. Then back at the bed. Then toward the bathroom again. He finally whispered, "God, not now." He ran. For a man with a large protruding belly, Mr. Okoro moved surprisingly fast. He reached the bathroom door, grabbed the handle and rushed inside. The tenants heard the door slam. Mama Ngozi nearly fell off her chair laughing. But Vanessa warned everybody not to make noise. The plan wasn't finished. Inside the bathroom, Mr. Okoro was fighting for his life. The stomach trouble had become serious. He sat down and sighed with relief. For a few moments, everything was quiet. Then he heard a strange sound. A soft dripping sound. Mr. Okoro looked around. The bathroom was old and poorly lit. The bulb flickered. He ignored it. Then he heard something behind him. A faint whisper. "Mr. Okoro." He froze. He slowly turned around. Nobody was there. He stared at the door. Then he laughed nervously. He told himself that hunger and stomach trouble were making him imagine things. He sat back down. Then the voice came again. "Mr. Okoro." This time it sounded much closer. Mr. Okoro slowly stood up. His eyes moved around the bathroom. Then the bulb flickered again. And suddenly, a figure appeared in the corner. An old, pale-looking man stood there wearing ragged traditional clothes. Mr. Okoro's mouth dropped open. He stared at the figure. The figure stared back. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Mr. Okoro politely greeted him. "Good evening." The figure didn't answer. Mr. Okoro swallowed. He asked who he was. The figure slowly lifted one hand and pointed at him. Then it spoke. "You take what does not belong to you." Mr. Okoro immediately knew exactly what the ghost was talking about. He began shaking. He tried to explain that he was only borrowing the food. The ghost stared at him. Mr. Okoro quickly changed his explanation. He said he had only been testing it. The ghost took one step forward. Mr. Okoro took one step backward. Then the toilet made a strange sound. The toilet began making a deep bubbling noise. Mr. Okoro looked down. The water was rising. He stared at it. The ghost remained completely still. The water rose higher. Mr. Okoro looked at the ghost. Then at the toilet. Then back at the ghost. He asked whether the ghost was responsible. The ghost simply smiled. Suddenly, the toilet overflowed. Water rushed onto the floor. Mr. Okoro jumped onto the toilet seat. He screamed for help. Outside, the tenants heard him. Mama Ngozi asked Vanessa whether they should help him. Vanessa looked toward the bathroom. She smiled. She said they should give him another minute. The tenants began laughing. Inside the bathroom, Mr. Okoro was shouting that the ghost wanted to kill him. The water continued rising. He climbed higher. Then the ghost disappeared. Mr. Okoro looked around frantically. "Where did you go?" There was no answer. Then he heard a voice directly behind him. "Mr. Okoro." He turned. Nobody was there. He screamed again. And at that exact moment, the toilet gave one final enormous GLOORP. Water exploded across the bathroom. Mr. Okoro jumped down, opened the door and ran into the compound completely soaked. The tenants stared at him. His native outfit was dripping. His bald head was shining under the compound light. His belly was still shaking from the stomach cramps. Nobody spoke. Then Mama Ngozi looked at him and asked, "Landlord, did you finally find the food you were looking for?" Everyone burst into laughter. Mr. Okoro looked at them angrily. But before he could say anything, another stomach cramp hit him. His eyes widened. He turned around and ran straight back toward the bathroom. The tenant screamed with laughter as he disappeared inside. From that day onward, Mr. Okoro never stole food from his tenants again. But he developed one new habit. Whenever he smelled chicken cooking in the compound, he would quietly close his windows. Because he had learned one very important lesson. A man's greed can sometimes lead him straight to the toilet.